Hey, thank you all for being here. It's an honor to have you again. Maybe one of our best turnouts that we have had for one of these events. You know, we started this back in the year 2000. You know, I'm proud to say that I grew up, and the first person I think that I was able to vote for was Ronald Reagan. Yeah. And you know, Ronald Reagan was just a great man, and we had Michael Reagan come speak. What has it been, Duffy? Maybe 5-6 years ago, and you know, it was great to get to talk to Michael and hear from him about who this man was, who his dad was, and he was a man, Ronald Reagan, who loved God. You know, Ronald Reagan recognized the genius of America. And it wasn't about the success of our country. It wasn't about the diligence or the entrepreneurs of the world. It wasn't about the business, but it was about the fact that our nation revered and respected God in our system. Well, unfortunately, you might have heard on the last debate that President Obama said, I'm not sure if he really believes it, but he said that the genius of America is the free enterprise system. Well, one, I don't know if he believes it. Two, that's not really the truth anyways. The genius of America is the fact that our nation is founded upon principles, Christian principles. We are inspired, divinely inspired by God. And we've probably all heard about American exceptionalism. And we're not exceptional because we've got great companies that have started in America. We've got farmland and all of these resources. We are successful as a nation because we have revered God from the beginning. And yes, it's difficult, but let's not forget our history, that we have sent out missionaries throughout the world as a Christian nation. And our churches and government have distributed humanitarian aid all over the world. When there's earthquakes and disasters, why do we go out there? Is it just because it makes us feel good? No, it's because our nation is founded in Christian principles. You know, in fact, a French statesman, a philosopher in the 1800s, Alexis de Tocqueville, he wrote this book called Democracy in America, and he came to America to study America. And Ronald Reagan used to quote from Alexis de Tocqueville often. And Alexis de Tocqueville came to see, why is America so successful? And when he went back to the French Senate, to their parliament, here's what he said. He said, I sought everywhere in vain for the secret of their success until I entered the church. It was there as I listened to the soul equalizing and soul elevating principles of the gospel of Jesus Christ as they fell from Sabbath to Sabbath upon the masses of the people, that I learned why America was great and free and why France was a slave. Interesting. You know, our real freedom comes from God. But unfortunately, however, there have been a few decades, about 3 to 4 decades, going back to the 60s particularly, that we have been struggling as a nation. We've been struggling for the morality in America. And unfortunately, the church, all of us, I presume, in this room, who we would consider the church, we've been silent for too long. We have sat in shackles as though we can't say anything because the media is going to mock us or ridicule us for being Christians, being right-wing, being religious fanatics, being born-again Christians or believers or evangelical. And we've been silent. And I'm proud to be part of a movement that is saying, well, that's fine too. That was funny. I'm proud to be part of a movement that wants to unshackle our wrists, so to speak. We got to break the shackles of silence, because this opposition to Christianity in America has almost gone without opposition. They've overwhelmed the courts. They've overwhelmed the legislatures. They've overwhelmed Congress. And unfortunately, it has overwhelmed the White House at this time. You know, our theme is liberating America. And as an organization, you know, we are coming to try to cause our nation, cause the Christian church to wake up. Not only wake up, but to realize that we have a voice and we have to speak, and we're going to use that. Our ultimate goal is to, in court, defend the First Amendment right to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we have seen that our rights to be able to share the gospel is being severely restricted in time. And so we now have an opportunity to continue and push in court on various cases that come our way. We don't have enough time, and I think I'm out of time, huh, Lamar? Let me tell you about a few cases. Duffy told me I was fine. I could go. Duffy said he lied. So let me tell you about a few of our cases that are going on right now. We just received a phone call last week from some kids who went around a flagpole, and they've been praying since school started in Gatlin, Tennessee, around the flagpole, praying for our nation, day after day after day. And it's interesting because, you know, there's one day a year when schools, there's the celebration, kids come and gather around the flagpole. They've been doing it day after day after day since the beginning of the school year. So it's been about a month and a half. And the school came and said, you can't pray. You can't do that anymore. Why? These kids are praying for our nation. These are not kids that are causing problems or creating issues. And so it's our goal to be able to help them get back to being able to pray around the flagpole before school starts. I mean, these are kids getting there before the school opens. You know, there's a church in Washington, D.C. that we got a phone call from this last week. And in D.C., they've got this historic preservation committee, and they're being told that their church is going to be designated as for historic preservation, which means they can't modify it, they can't do anything to it. And this is their building they've owned for 30 years. And so it's things like this where they're coming and they're saying, we want your building from you. We've got a case in Hemet where there is a pastor and another two men who were arrested because they were reading the Bible in front of the DMV. Now, some of us look at that and say, well, I wouldn't really feel comfortable doing that myself. Well, you're right. But, you know, I don't think Paul Revere was arrested when he was, you know, riding through the countryside. It's free speech. It's an opportunity to be able to share faith. You know, I'm gonna end with this, and if we can roll, do we have that video that ready to go? This is another case that speaks for itself.
This is what they call wine country, an unincorporated part of the county outside Temecula. There's wine tasting, plush hotels, and thousands of acres of vineyards. And then there's Calvary Chapel.
It looks just like one of the wineries. You wouldn't know a difference.
Riverside County granted Pastor Clark Van Wyck permission to build in 1999. Then the county made it illegal to build churches on wine country land. Apparently, nobody told the pastor who recently asked the county for permission to expand.
Lo and behold, we found out it was illegal to build churches. I mean, who would have thought?
The county held a public hearing about expanding wine country last week. Churches still excluded. Attorney Bob Tyler represents Calvary Chapel.
They're going to triple the size of this wine country, and at the same time, they're going to say that the people who live here cannot go to church nearby.
Question is, can churches be compatible with wineries?
Commissioner John Petty says compatibility is a legal issue. In California, pesticide use and alcohol sales are restricted near churches.
I'm a resident, I own a vineyard, I'm an attorney.
Michael Newcomb says most vineyard owners out here support the church restrictions. Pastor Van Wyck says he understands why after an uncomfortable meeting with a few neighbors.
And they looked me right in the eye and they said, we don't want your kind out here.
Michael and others see things much differently and say they're confident California law will favor them and the church ban will stand.
And it's not just, you know, people are anti-church.
In wine country, I'm Jacob Rascone, NBC4 News.
Let me conclude. People often ask us, how can we get involved? How can we get involved in liberating America? Well, first of all, vote your Christian worldview. Second of all, we are involved in a strategic forum for people. You don't have to be a lawyer to be involved in this. We work with California Family Council with Ron Prentice, and these are organizations that are starting up. We helped start the one in Orange County. There's one in San Diego. We now have one in Riverside. There's one in Chino Hills. These are opportunities at Fresno and going around. There's many more. L.A., down in Compton in L.A., And so these are forums of conservative Christians coming together regardless of political affiliation to liberate America. You know, there's Salt and Light Ministries. Duran Reese, raise your hand. Gina Gleason from Chino Hills Calvary. They have ministries that are called Salt and Light Ministries, where we have an opportunity to be a light in your church, maybe once a week, once a month, having a table out front to give information. And certainly, we'd love for you to partner with us financially because these cases are significant and expensive. And so, folks, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to introduce Jennifer Monk. Jen, if you'd begin coming on.